Did you have siblings growing up?
I did. I was a middle child. I had two sisters. Alex was a few years older than me, and then Katie a few years younger than me. So sandwiched right in the middle, spoiled by them and their love. But no, it was good.
That's great. Was mom and dad around? And
yeah, I had a great household. My parents, I think we're all very close. I think like every Sunday was kind of like our family day. We always spent a lot of time together, whether it's like watching a movie or going to the park. I was obsessed with sports. And so my dad, he would drop anything and everything to go play catch with me in the yard or rebound for me, whatever it was. And he coached me in every sport. Even my mom would get out there and throw the football around or rebound for me. But that was definitely kind of something my dad and I bonded over was sports. He loved sports. Him and his brother and sister growing up were avid athletes and kind of definitely passed down to me. My sisters were into sports, not as crazy as I was. I was relentless and wanted to do everything and just couldn't stop thinking about competing and getting better. And that was always kind of my identity for, 18 years of life.
So you were very competitive. Do you think you got that from your dad?
I think so. I mean, God-given for sure, but my dad, he's a competitor as well. But it doesn't matter. It could be bingo. It could be Uno. You name a silly game. I want to compete and win. It's just, I don't know. It just excites me and I love a challenge. So yeah, sports was a great outlet for me to channel some of that competitiveness.
Yeah. What sports did you play?
So I did it all growing up as a little guy, soccer, baseball, basketball, football, ran track, even played a little bit of golf. But in high school in Iowa, you can do 4 sports. So you can do baseball in the summer. I did track in the spring, basketball in the winter, and football in the fall. But my freshman year was when I really started to see that 4 sports is a lot, especially in the summer when I wanted to focus on weightlifting, get a job. I was a lifeguard. So I enjoyed being a lifeguard and working on my tan. But wanted time for lifting, for the 7-on-7 tournaments, for football, basketball leagues. There was always so much going on for the other sports to level up. And so having a 4th sport was a lot. So I gave up baseball and just focused on the 3 sports in high school.
Which sport did you really focus on? So you played 3. Was there one that stood out in high school that you really were like, okay, well, I really want to continue with this and potentially play in college?
It was both basketball and football. It was whatever season I was in was the focus. But I would say that basketball probably took most of my time and energy because it felt like a year-round sport with all of the practicing, the AAU leagues. There was just always like a basketball tournament or a 3-on-3 tournament going on. I felt like there weren't as many opportunities for football in Iowa. And so I just consumed a ton of time for basketball. But, being kind of a undersized, white guy with limited athletic ability, like my ceiling was only so high. And I'm somebody that it just like takes me a little bit more reps to get good at something. And so I had to spend that much more time working on ball handling, that much more time working on my shots and shots off the dribble and just all the different little intricacies of the game of basketball. I had to spend so much time in. Whereas football, a big part of the game, is, are you afraid? Like, can you go in and hit somebody? Do you have instincts to know where the ball is going and what the other team is doing? And all those things, it just came naturally to me. Like I'm a nice guy. Like I'm kind, friendly. You put the shoulder pads on and the helmet, I want to hit you. Like just kind of that fire goes over you. And I was good at that. And so it became clear to me that, football, I had a higher ceiling. then basketball. I also knew it wouldn't require quite the time and commitment. Not that it doesn't take time and commitment, but like I was mentioning, like all the little elements of basketball just took so much out of me, whereas football, I knew weightlifting is a huge part of it, and it's a huge part of any sport. But yeah, so that's where it kind of led me to, I'm going to pursue football. And then basketball, I could play old man leagues. I could play, I could do other things with basketball, whereas football, the pads, I wasn't going to play in the NFL. So I have pretty much 4 years to put on the shoulder pads. So I want to make the most out of it.
Yeah. So you had the instinct, you had the ability, athletic ability, but in terms of you had the work ethic, but the work ethic would have been a lot greater if you were to focus on basketball versus football. You were just accustomed, like your body and who you were, where you were at, the ability, the things that you needed to focus on with football, you already had them instilled in you. So it would have been a shorter work ethic period. Not that you weren't willing to put the work ethic in, but no, you're a realist, and that's smart.
Yeah.
So you play football. You just told me before this, you were a safety.
Correct.
Did you play both ways?
In high school, I was a wide receiver and safety. And I played corner for a number of years too, until I got a little bit bigger. But they wanted me at a safety spot because I wasn't afraid of contact. I could hit people, and you play both the pass and the run. So safety was a natural spot. But I played corner. The guy who played safety a year ahead of me, he was a decathlon runner at Ohio State, and had opportunities to do like Olympics. So he was a stud, and so he was a great safety. And so I did really well at corner, but when he was gone and it was just safety, it was a great natural spot. Linebacker, I did, even earlier, but once I stopped growing and everybody else kept growing, linebacker just wasn't realistic.
Yeah. Was your high school, because I know some high schools are very intense when it comes to their sports. My high school with football, it was workouts all the time, early morning runs. Everyone, it's not mandated by law to come to the summer gatherings that they had, but they were kind of like practices. And if you didn't go, you weren't starting. Was it pretty intense in high school?
It was. My school historically was bad at football. It was probably my freshman year, 8th grade year. We got new coaches that really kind of revitalized the mentality and kind of that level of commitment. So some of those elements that you're talking about was starting to become in place around that time. And so there was this huge emphasis on, if you don't show up for the workouts, don't plan on playing. And if you don't, do the two-a-days, and the voluntary things weren't voluntary, right? Yeah. They were mandatory. You had to be there. But legally they can't say that. But there was this intense level of focus and commitment to it.
Yeah. When you get to senior year, the safety graduates, he's gone. You're now moving into the safety position. How did your senior year go? Did you guys do well?
Yeah, we won district championship, went to the playoffs, won our first round, and then we lost by one score in the second round. Yeah. Which was a bummer. But our school, we were just like the class size, like we were the biggest class size. And so because we were the biggest class size in our school, it leveled us up to the next division per se. So it just made the competition that much greater because you're playing against schools that are much bigger than you, but you're like the bottom of the barrel for that class size, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
of course. So you guys have a good year. You lose in the playoffs. You talked about the competitiveness, the competitive nature was your identity growing up. Mm-hmm. What are you thinking now after high school? Are you looking at colleges? Were you recruited? What's your mindset there?
Yeah, I was recruited for football and basketball. And then like I explained to you, that's where I went the football route. I picked out, there's one school that was like 40 minutes away. I was kind of lazy with my recruiting, to be honest. I would do the visits that were like within an hour, but I was always busy doing something. So the idea of going that much further was like too much for me, which, looking back it was lazy. Like I wish I would have taken a little bit more proactive approach to it. But there was one school, Luther College, like 3 hours away. They were recruiting me pretty hard. I liked them, but I didn't give them much of a chance. So I committed to one school, and one of my high school coaches, he went to Luther and he was familiar with this conference. He played in this conference, and he's like, I don't think you're that kind of guy with the school that you would go to. I really think you would enjoy Luther. Like, would you give Luther one more chance and just go up there for like an overnight visit and really get to know the players and the coaches and the school? So I caved. I'm like, okay, I'll do it for you. I had a lot of respect for him. And so I went up there and I really connected with the guys. I felt like we were like similar in a lot of ways. I liked where they're at as far as like the location. It was a beautiful area, great academics. Their football program was like mediocre to like below average. So there's always that like excitement of like, hey, we're going to come in and really change things around. So I like that opportunity. And so I ended up switching and making that commitment to Luther, which I'm forever grateful for.
Yeah. Now, spoiler alert, I met you at Christ Fellowship. Where are you at this point in your life with your relationship with God?
So at this point, my faith has arguably never been stronger. I feel like Christ Fellowship, the church that you mentioned, has really helped strengthen that. But I don't know, it's just been a season of life where when things aren't going according to plan, and, as we'll get into later in this podcast, with my injury, when things didn't go according to plan, I really went to God. And I feel like there's been times in my life where I've been really good about that, and other times I haven't. And I feel like I'm in a season of life where I feel tethered to God. And I heard our pastor Todd Mullins say, like, your not enough is just enough for God. And so I think about that. And so anytime I feel like I can't do this, I don't feel like I'm enough.
Yeah.
I remember to go to God and just surrender that weight and that burden and know that He's got good plans for me. So, but as an 18-year-old kid, it was a fire extinguisher kind of faith. It's when things are burning down around you, that's when you pull out the fire extinguisher to put it out. And it's kind of like, oh God, I don't know if I can do this on my own. So I'll go to you praying for a miracle.
Yeah, when it's convenient, we really need it. 100%. Yeah. I was there at one point in my life, and I like that you are vulnerable enough to share that. So you go to Luther, your relationship with God is there, not as strong as it is today. Mm-hmm. What was freshman year like playing football and college for you?
Well, I was, going into it, I wanted to play right away. Like, that's why I picked football over basketball. It was like, I think I can come in and compete and play at a high level. So I had a lot of pressure on myself, and you kind of worried, like, am I going to be found out that I'm really not that good? Or like, there's all those insecurities and doubts, but
imposter syndrome.
Yeah. Imposter syndrome for sure. And then you like take a look at all the other guys, like, man, they're big. Like, they're strong, they're fast. But again, my edge was my tenacity. So I felt, early on in camp when there weren't shoulder pads and helmets and you weren't hitting each other, I felt like I was just kind of in the middle of the pack. But, quickly within that first week of shoulder practices is when I really started to make a name for myself as a freshman, and started to slowly advance my way up the depth chart, where I got moved from the freshman team to the varsity team, was on all the different special teams units. I was then playing behind the starter, 4 strong safety, while also, like the week before my injury, I was starting to then, they wanted me to practice and train with the free safety. The free safety was a senior and was battling different injuries and things. So they were getting me ready to step in potentially. So there's all these opportunities that I was excited for as football front. And then, being an 18-year-old college kid, like felt like I was living the dream of freedom, experiencing the college life. I was somebody just full of life and curiosity and wanted to just make the most out of life and making tons of friends. And so I felt like I was just starting to get a hang of college and just enjoying every minute of it before the rug got ripped out underneath me.
So can you walk us through the day the accident happened? What exactly had happened?
Yeah, it was October 16, 2010, sixth game of my freshman season. The third quarter, we're mounting this comeback because we're actually playing the school that I had committed to and then decommitted from. And they were not happy when I decommitted at all. They were pretty disappointed. They thought, it was a done deal and nothing to worry about. So I have a lot of respect for them, but they're a really good football program. Powerhouse nationally. They go to the national championships and the playoffs. Well, we were down by maybe 2 scores. We had just scored a touchdown, and then it's the kickoff unit. And so there's tons of energy, excitement, here we go. And I felt that this is my time. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to cause a fumble. I'm going to make a big play for my team. Kicker huddles us up. He calls the play, mortar kick right, which simply is a short, high arching kick to the right side of the field. And I don't know why our kicker didn't just call it kick right, because our kicker was so bad. Every kick was short and low arching. So I line up though, 'cause I'm excited. I'm on the right side of the field. So I know that short, high arching, low arching kick will come right to my side and I'm going to be right there. So the ball's kicked, sprinting downfield as hard as I can go. I see the opening for me. My instincts are telling me the ball carrier will run through that gap. I'm going to stop. I'm going to drive my shoulder so hard through his legs and ball, he'll fumble it. Well, I go for it at full speed, full force. We collide, but instead of taking him down with my shoulder, I hit him head on. And the next thing I know, I'm laying, face down on the ground, listening to the sounds of players crash into each other above me. The whistle blows, the pile clears off. But when I try to get up, I can't. I tell myself, Chris, get up. And I try pushing through the ground, but nothing is moving. It felt like someone just flipped the power off to my body. And the athletic trainers, they rushed out. I'm embarrassed by this point because I don't want the game stop for me. I just want to get up, shake it off, and go to the sidelines. And I've never been one who I'm going to sit out of a play. I'm not going to milk an injury or being hurt. I want to be in on every single thing. I want the reputation of that tough guy. And now I'm just motionless on the ground. So I hated that. And so they carefully roll me onto my back. I make eye contact with the student athletic trainer, and I could just see in her face, she's terrified. But me, the glass is half full. She's young. She doesn't really know what's going on. I kind of just brushed that to the side, but it's kind of that first bit of seed of this could be really bad. But no way. Bad things happen to other people. It happens to people that you read about on social media or you watch on television. Maybe it's somebody on your podcast, but no, not me. Not my story. Well, they start asking me questions like, Chris, can you make a fist with your hand? I try making a fist and nothing happens. I don't even know where my arm's at. I couldn't even tell. It just felt like a floating head. They asked me, Chris, can you feel us touching your legs? No. And, The more they ask questions like that, and as time goes on, I'm like, man, well, maybe this is bad. Because I was thinking this is just like a bad stinger, which maybe you've had a stinger where it kind of like temporarily you kind of go numb, you can't move it. I'm like, wow, this is really bad stinger. I had one in high school that cracked a few ribs and separated my shoulder partially. It really messed me up. But after a few minutes, when I couldn't move, I was able to get up and walk it off, and I got back in the game. Well, time just kept ticking, and the cheering stadium has fallen eerily silent. My parents, they come on the field, and they're nearby. They're doing their best to reassure me, but I can hear the worry in their voices. And at this point, my eyes are closed. I can feel the fear, and I'm scared, but I don't want to believe it. And so if I can close my eyes and act like it's not happening, I'm just like trying to escape and separate myself from reality, because there was just nothing I could do. And my whole life, I've always been like a fixer. Like if there's a problem, like, well, how can I get rid of the problem as fast as humanly possible? Well, I'm just lying there motionless. There's like nothing. I felt so helpless. And I felt like the only thing I really could do to protect myself was to like act like it wasn't happening. So I closed my eyes. I prayed. I get stretchered off the field. And another moment of just when I realized how bad it was is like, I've been to a lot of football games, and what does the football player do when they're being helped off the field? They wave, they give a thumbs up. And I remember thinking about that as people started to clap as I was going off the field to the ambulance. And so I try again to lift my arm, but nothing happens. And I could just feel the fear inside me just grow even greater. But now, though, if I wish I could go back to that same moment and to be the first player to ever give a thumbs down. Not doing so good. Yikes. You can all quit clapping now. And Kevin, if you ever see somebody do the thumbs down, that was my idea. So let's give credit where credit's due. But I think that would be hilarious if someone actually be like, nah, not good. Not good at all.
Dude, I don't want to laugh because you're so in the heat of the moment, but I love your personality, bro.
But yeah, then taken to the hospital, they take x-rays and they ask, where do you want to go for surgery? Because they're going to fly me out. And I was like, I mean, like you can go to La Crosse or Mayo Clinic. And I didn't know anything about hospitals or health systems. I'm like, I have no idea. Like, where would you go? They're like, Mayo Clinic. And well, now I know Mayo Clinic is a world-renowned hospital. And I think they were like number 1 or number 2 in neurological surgery and all these different things. So that's kind of a no-brainer, but they flew me out. And it was like a 20-minute flight. And that's where they kind of prepared me for emergency surgery.
They flew you on the helicopter.
Yeah.
Okay. So you get in the helicopter, you go over to Mayo Clinic. What are they telling you at this point? So you're going in for surgery. They need to go in and see exactly what's going on.
Yeah. By this point, they knew it was a spinal cord injury.
Yeah.
They knew there's a fracture. They didn't know the degree of the spinal cord injury, but based on no sensation anywhere below the injury site was where they would eventually give me a 3% prognosis at the initial assessment. And I was also losing the ability to breathe. That was another part that was scary because your spinal cord, it's a nervous system to your muscles. Your lungs are a muscle. And so I was having a hard time breathing too. That was also stirring even more fear inside of me. But I was very intentional not to ask questions. I knew like they were doing these x-rays. They the MRI scan. They were, a bunch of doctors, a bunch of people tending me. And I didn't ask a thing. I wanted them to have all the information they could before I asked them the question I wanted to ask. And so when I do get to the operating table after hours of prep, I hear the door open, the surgeon walks into view, and he asks, "Do you have any questions?" So I ask him, fighting back the tears in my eyes, "Will I walk again?" He shrugs his shoulders and says, "I don't know." And I'm no longer able to hold back the tears. And, I just wanted to wake up from this horrific nightmare to find out it's all just a really bad dream.
Is that when he had said that you have a 3% chance to walk again?
The following day
Okay.
was when the surgeon came in for their post-surgery report with my family.
So the surgery went as best as it could have went?
Yeah, it went really well.
Okay.
Actually.
Okay.
Better than expected, which is a great thing. But post-surgery, though, when I woke up and was coming to, they were kind of giving the breakdown of what they saw when things came in and what was like. And then when he told me 3% chance of ever not walking, but feeling or moving below the neck. It was so much more than, just being able to move my legs. And literally when he said that, everything stopped. The whole world just started to turn. And, the ringing in the ears and vision blurring, time stood still. And I couldn't tell you a single word he said after that because I was just trying to my brain was trying to process this is my life. This is actually happening to you. There's no more denying it.
Yeah. It's a powerless feeling.
Yeah.
You were playing sport that you loved in college at a high level and you hit someone. It happens in football a million times. Everyone's hitting everyone.
Yep.
It's part of the game.
Yep.
And then this accident happens. You get out of surgery. He gives you the post-op report and you receive this news that not even talking about walking, but being able to feel something below the neck is about a 3% chance. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, are you thinking at this point, walking is completely out of the question? It's out of the picture.
No, I was, again, a little bit of a good sort of stubborn ignorance of no way, not me. This is not going to be my life.
Wow.
I will do whatever it takes each and every day to be a member of that 3%. You just tell me what I'm supposed to do or what I should be doing, and I'll do it. And I'll do it to every single hour of the day. There will be no quit in me. If there's a will, there's a way. And so that's kind of my mindset with this. Now, eventually, I would realize that I'm fighting against not just a matter of will, but a matter of science, which is different. Will can take you very far, but there's also science that you run up against. But at that time, I was an 18-year-old kid, don't tell me I can't do it. I'm gonna fight like heck to make sure I will.
Will is within your power. Science is not.
Yeah.
And So walk us through that day that you receive all that info, the post-op report. What does your journey look like from the hospital onward?
Well, I remember my first PT appointment. And so they asked, trying to regain motion in my neck. So they have me nod my head yes and no. So I nodded and shook my head for hours. I looked like a giant bobblehead, just kind of bouncing my head all around. And I would do that I would do it for hours, and then they would come back in for the second session that day. They'd be like these short little 30-minute sessions, and I'd still be doing it. And they're like, they were just amazed by like, if this is what I'm supposed to do, I will nod and shake my head until I can't anymore. And so I just kind of had that mentality of each day of, okay, what can I do today so that my future will take care of itself? And so I just tried to maximize every single minute, every single hour. I had my parents help me with different therapy things, or my sister. And it was just taking things one day at a time. And I was pretty good about keeping myself distracted through workouts, through family support, friends support. But I'm not going to lie, when it came nighttime, when it was time to go to sleep and it's quiet, it's dark, that's when doubt wages war. And it was nearly impossible to go to sleep. Just a lot of times crying myself to sleep, thinking about my future. Like, will I be able to go back to school, or will I have to live with my parents the rest of my life? Will a girl want to be with me? Will I ever be a dad or husband? All those things were circling in my mind, like just answers that were impossible to find.
What were some things that helped you get through those nights in the beginning, where the committee in the head is talking, and they're talking loud, and it's all negative?
Yeah.
What did you lean on during that time to get through that?
Definitely my faith was really the only thing that could give me any sort of semblance of peace. So Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Obviously, though, there's plenty of times where my God, how is this plans to prosper me, to give me a hope and a future? Like, this does not make any sense. This feels a lot like harm. But at the same time, I recognized, faith it's a choice. It's not a feeling. And so I chose to believe that God would cause everything to work together for the good of those who love him or are called according to his purpose. And so I chose to believe. I didn't feel it. And so those dark nights was really a matter of just getting through it. Like, I wish there was like some tip or trick that, I thought this and it just disappeared. I could think about those scriptures and the faith. It didn't dissipate the doubt or anything. It was just a matter of like surviving it and just getting through those dark nights so the sun could rise and I could get back to work and just keep believing that things will change. And so whatever dark chapter you are in right now, just hold on. The page will turn, and there's so many chapters of life ahead of everyone, no matter what age you are. Like, so you just got to keep going. And I know this because I've lived it.
What was the first glimmer of hope that you had, maybe at physical therapy, in your life while going through recovery?
There's a couple moments, but a moment that really like gave me a lot of hope was from a nurse. It was the fourth night in the ICU, and around midnight, I'm wide awake when a nurse walks into my room. Instead of checking my vitals, she comes to my bedside. She leans in close and says, "Chris, look me in the eyes." And just kind of mean about it. And our eyes, we lock, and she's this slender woman, reddish hair, glasses. She's got this voice that sounded like she walked straight out of a Western movie. And she says, "My name is Georgia. I'm from Wyoming. Do you know anyone from Wyoming?" No. Where is this going? Well, she keeps talking and says, "Well, people from Wyoming don't tell lies. And I want you to know, you will beat this." you will beat this. I instantly started crying. Like, ever since the 3% prognosis, I've been worrying, like, what if all the hours I spent in therapy would just be a huge waste of time? But here's this nurse, a medical professional, telling me, you will beat this. And her faith ignited mine. And so the next day when I start my PT and exercises, I can hear her words cheer me on like a battle cry of, you will beat this. And so I carry that hope, and I remember those words each and every day of like just believing, okay, maybe it is possible. Because I had hope, my parents had hope, but there's just something different when there's an outside voice, somebody that you believe to be true, that they have a little bit more authority. And when they can speak hope and life into you, it just, I don't know, rings that much deeper into the soul.
It's funny. I had anticipated, I got some feeling back at physical therapy. I thought you were going to say something physical had happened to you, but you just shared a message from God through someone else that gave you hope. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that because everyone can tap into that.
Yeah.
And that is not something, it's out of your control. So that was a message from God to give you that hope. What then happens at this point? Do you have any sensation in your body? Can you feel anything at this point?
Yeah. So at this point, the sensation is like lower down to my chest. I'm able to like move my arm a little bit and curl it slightly, like part way. And then my right arm, I'm like able like to shrug it a little bit. Just like a slight little right shoulder shrug, but my left arm has more mobility. And so it just kind of helped re-energize my therapy because it's discouraging when like, I know, like I have the muscle, like I know the thought process of how to open your hand, how to, reach to grab something, but it just won't work. It'd be like trying to change the channel of the TV, but it's unplugged, right? It doesn't matter how many times you push the button. If the TV is not plugged in, nothing's working. And so it just kind of felt like something was just unplugged, and it's just frustrating having that something you've been so good at and trained your whole life for just ripped out from you. But yeah, so I just kind of slowly, kind of this trickle of, strength and sensation. I had started out with 1 hour therapy a day. And then when I transferred from the rehab or the ICU to the rehab floor, I was able to kick it up to 3 hours. And then within a few days, I realized 3 hours is not enough. I need a 4th hour. I asked the hospital for a 4th and they said no. I said, well, why not? And they said, well, insurance cuts off at 3 hours.
God.
Well, I was on a mission. Eventually we got that 4th hour. And then a few days go by though, and it's like 4 hours is not enough. I need a 5th hour. So I asked for a 5th. They say no again. But this time they meant it. I actually never got it. But instead I had my physical and occupational therapist write up workouts that I can do on my own outside of my scheduled therapy time. So my motto was, if I'm not sleeping, I'm working. And so I just kept training and leveling things up, and eventually, starting to curl my arm more. And a huge breakthrough was when I was able to start feeding myself some food. It took over a month, but just being able to get food in my mouth was just this huge victory.
So how long did you end up going to physical therapy for?
In the hospital, I trained physical therapy for over 7 years straight. Hours a day.
And so let's say, was it to the point where it was very intense until it kind of became less intense? Like in terms of, a lot of the recovery, what period and what time frame did a lot of the recovery happen in?
Yeah, great question. It's hard to say.
That's a tough question. Sorry, I was like trying to figure out the words, how to kind of put that together. So.
Well, it was just kind of this snowball effect, I guess you could say, where, in the beginning, getting just like a little flicker of movement meant that there's at least some signal getting to that muscle. So like on Thanksgiving morning, I wiggled my left big toe, just a little wiggle of toe wiggle. And so like that toe wiggle though, it eventually led to having a little bit of movement in my quads and then my hamstrings, my calf, like just these little movement. And then you just do a ton of therapy trying to stand and do like trying to get those signals stronger. And so just a ton of repetition of getting those muscles to fire. And so I guess the intensity was able to ramp up where instead of, I was always fatiguing from the nervous system, like my nerves would fatigue, not my muscles. Or eventually when I got the nerves strong enough, I could eventually wear out my muscles. So then the training was a lot more walking on my feet. And so that was a little bit more physically exhausting versus just my nervous system being exhausted. And so there's, I don't know, there's just kind of different seasons where the intensity would adapt to what was coming back.
Yeah. Can you walk us through, you set a goal for yourself. Can you walk us through the process, the time where you were able to walk again?
So there was, it was in college. I was like my freshman year. So I was able to go back thanks to my older sister, Alex. She, moved to an apartment off campus to help with the transition. I lived on campus with my roommates who were also my football teammates, and they really stepped up and helped take care of me. So they would, sleep in the bed with me because I'd have these giant muscle spasms at night where I couldn't correct. So if my arm came up on my face, I couldn't get my arm off my face to straighten it out. Or if my leg had these muscle spasms and kicked up, I couldn't fix my leg. So they would be like right there to help fix or do whatever. Or, in the morning, I needed help getting out of bed, getting dressed, getting to class, cafeteria. So it was really like a whole team effort to help take care of me and look after me, which, was daunting going into college, knowing I was going to ask for so much. But, thankfully there were so many willing people who really wanted to help. So it was, I was able to go to college and still live, a college life. And that's where I set the goal. I mean, how cool would it be if I walked across the stage of my college graduation? Like, I think that would just be really neat and something I think realistic because I had 4 years to get ready. So then that was really helped re-energize my training and to focus on how can I walk across that stage. And I needed a ton of help at that time. So it was very scary, but it gave me something to, focus on. And so that was kind of when I started walking with like a big walker and leg braces. I had a couple of therapists that would help, guide me and pull my legs through. And just over time, like very slowly, I was able to lose the leg braces. Instead of 2 therapists, it was 1 therapist. Instead of having a walker, I could do it without a walker and just with 1 person. And it was just this very gradual effect that took place. And I just kept going. I just was relentless with it, like I've talked about, and just been consistent. And when you can progress just an inch a day, which doesn't feel like much in the day, doesn't feel that much after a week or even a month, but you stack that up over years, well, now you got some distance. And I think that's kind of what I was seeing with my progress eventually when graduation day came.
Every day you move the dial 1 degree, and then the trajectory over long term, how much progression you've made. I love that you mentioned that and you brought that up, because in the moment you're like, I made a little progress today. It's really not a lot.
Yeah.
But you keep staying consistent and focused in the hard work. So we get to your graduation. What happens at graduation?
Well, the day before graduation, let me back up a little bit. Junior year, I met Emily, fell in love hard and fast.
You met Emily at college?
I met Emily in college. Yep.
Okay, junior year of college, you meet your, I don't want to spoil it, but go ahead.
Yeah.
Soon to be your wife.
Yep.
Okay.
Soon to be wife. And
beautiful thing, man.
Yeah, thank you. And she was just incredible. And, she really took on my goal and dream to walk across the stage as her own. And so after a year of dating, we began walking together as well. And she was my toughest trainer. I mean, she was always pushing me to take one more step, do another walk. And after a while, I walked better with her than any of my trainers. And so I knew she had to be the one who'd help me walk across the stage of college graduation. And then as if there wasn't enough going on graduation weekend, I had the brilliant idea to propose to her the day before graduation. And so I was 10 times more nervous asking her to marry me than potentially tripping and fall in front of thousands of people.
F walking. Yeah, I'm nervous about.
And thankfully she said yes. Otherwise that next day would have been awkward.
You wouldn't have had a walking part. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. She still would have helped you. But she said yes.
She said yes.
You end up walking at graduation across the stage.
Yeah. And I was like deathly nervous because I'm thinking, man, like there's a lot of people graduating. There's a lot of people there. I'm going to hold up everyone. Like everyone's going to be like waiting on me to like, can you like get across the stage? Like graduations are long as it is. And so like I had all this like pressure and doubt of like, then what if I can't do it? That week. So a couple of weeks earlier, one of my trainers thought, hey, you should take magnesium at night to help recover and relaxes the body. And I'm like, okay, that sounds good. So I started taking that. Well, I didn't connect the dots. Well, a week goes by and my training just plummets. Like I can barely take a step a week before graduation when I've been telling the whole world, like I'm going to walk across the stage of my college graduation. I could barely take a step. And I felt like I was about to have like a mental breakdown of just what is happening, and like in tears, plenty of moments and doubt of, oh gosh, like it's going to fail. Like all this years of training just to come up this short. Like what is happening? Well, then you say, well, are you still taking that magnesium? I'm like, yeah. It's like, quit taking that magnesium. Okay. I quit taking it, and slowly it came back, and it came back just enough in time for graduation. So, Emily stands me up, and I was able to walk across the stage thanks to her assistance. And then to my amazement, when I got up, the whole crowd just erupted in cheers and applause. And I could just feel the love and the encouragement. What felt good, because like I said, I was thinking, am I going to get booed off the stage? Like, man. But no, I got nothing but love. And then I had my buddy there. He was like a videographer. He was just starting his videography business. His girlfriend was graduating. He was a grade above. And so I hired him. Like, hey, I'll pay for your flights and everything if you came and you just filmed our proposal. Then if you could film the graduation walk, would be great. He's like, yeah, absolutely. And so he did that because no one else was like really had a nice camera or was there to film it. Well, he put together a video. We put it online, and then it just exploded like viral. And like Emily and I woke up like the next day after it was shared, and we're getting calls from like NBC Nightly News, like, hey, like, we want to do a story. Can we have a crew there in an hour? Like, sure. Like, we're just in like little town Iowa right now. Like, yeah, we'll get a crew there in an hour. Can you be ready? Like, sure. Yeah, we'll be ready. And then Good Morning America, like, hey, can you get on a plane this afternoon? We want you guys to come on air with us tomorrow morning. Like, sure. Like, let's go. So it was just a wild of just pouring all these messages, these phone calls from these news stations all across the world, Tokyo and Brazil and like Germany, like you name it. It was just unbelievable how much fire this video just caught.
Tokyo, could you be here tonight? No.
Yeah.
Dude, that is wild. So you're now, this life beyond your wildest dreams is starting to kind of, well, not saying that was your dreams, but like all of these crazy things are happening.
Yeah.
And like, where's your connection at with God at this point?
You know, I'd say as time separated from the ground zero of my injury, I'd say my faith then got more distance as things became more comfortable and good. Like, I don't need God right now, right?
Oh.
It's like, and so, but for like the first few years, oh my God, I need you. And then it turned into like a posture of like gratitude, like, well, thank you, God. Like, because then I saw other people who were quadriplegics, other people who got injured, who had it way worse than what I had. And I started to recognize all the blessings in my life. And I felt like after a few years though, I slowly was like this kind of a 1 degree where I stopped praying as much or giving thanks. And so there's a little bit of distance in that season before, again, kind of like, it's kind of been ebbs and flow of faith. Not that, again, I didn't stop believing, but how tethered I was to God at that moment wasn't as tight as it is today.
Well, you just mentioned, getting in touch with God to express gratitude. Mm-hmm. Whereas prior to the injury, you were saying when you were maybe younger, it was, things were hitting the fan, right? So it's like, let me talk to God. And so it's when you move to, and I'm speaking for myself, when I move to a place of gratitude, thanking God, I'm keeping God in my life all the time. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, life is much more manageable to deal with things that I necessarily, don't want to deal with. It makes it so much easier to just have God with you at all times versus reaching out to God and tapping into God when you need him the most.
Oh, for sure.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Like I said, there's times where I'm great about that and times where I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta kind of refocus on this. And
So you set another goal after your graduation. Mm-hmm. I think you set another goal. You get married. And what happens at the wedding? Was there a goal set at that wedding?
So there was a goal set when we were doing all these interviews for the graduation.
Okay.
They're like, well, what's next for you guys? I'm like, and I just like kind of popped out. I think this one was on like Fox and Friends. And they're, what's next for you guys? Like, I guess walk Emily down the aisle. We're like, great. Like that sounds amazing. I can't wait for that. And
you're like, so damn, what did I just get myself? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Like I guess this is going to happen. And then as we were getting, ready for that one, I wanted to do it side by side and go 7 yards down the aisle was kind of the number that we picked. And it was 3 yards further than the graduation walk. And it's 7 yards representing 7 years since my injury. But the side-by-side walk was very hard. I completely underestimated how difficult that would be because for years, I'd always grip the person's arms in front of me for support and balance. So when Emily stands me up and she's at my side, there's no support from the front anymore. Just one arm around my waist. And I'll never forget the first practice, like 6 months before the wedding, I couldn't take a single step. And that was another kind of gut check moment of like, oh my, like, what if I can't do that? I mean, I can't even take one step and I have 7 yards that I'm supposed to walk in 6 months. So that was pretty daunting, but it definitely, what helped was just refocusing on like, why do I want to do the 7 yards? And we received all these messages from the graduation walk, messages from people sharing how they've been going through this, something really tragic, something heartbreaking. And it was seeing this walk and seeing how hard it was and how much time and effort it took to get across that stage. It just gave them the courage to go after their own challenges and to keep going and not to give up, even if it's hard. And seeing how much that encouraged people just kind of gave me purpose of like, I think I'm here. And I think my injury, God's worked it all together to give people hope who are feeling hopeless. And having my outward physical challenges so noticeable for people is just, it's an easier thing to do for me than it is for other people, I think. And so I really saw that as an opportunity to serve and to glorify God. And so that's where knowing that purpose kept me focused. And I got to figure out how to go 7 yards. Plus, People Magazine had already reached out and they said that they're going to be at the wedding doing a story on us. And actually, as we're recording this this podcast, we got married at Abacoa, the golf course.
Oh, no way. It's beautiful there.
Yeah. So a couple blocks, right, from where we're at right now. And then at the same time, the documentary film team had contacted me and they started filming and they were getting ready because the closing of the documentary would be the wedding walk. So there was pressure to do that. And they had already named the movie 7 yards.
You better do it. No, I'm just...
You can't go 5. You can't go 6. It's got to be 7. And so, there's a lot of pressure behind it. But this one was completely different. Where I wanted to throw up before the graduation walk. And I felt like almost nauseated by all the pressure. And like, is this going to be good enough? Go into the wedding walk. My faith at that point was tighter and better than it ever been in my life up to that point. And I had this peace of like, I don't care what cameras are out there. I don't care our guests and friends or where they travel. Like all this like expectation on this walk of like, it's not what it's about. Like it's about getting married to Emily. And if I trip and fall, like who cares? Like if that's what God's plans are, then that's what his plan. Like I just had this peace that God's hand was all over it and whatever would happen would be okay. And so I enjoyed my wedding. There was no like making sure everything was perfect and okay. And Emily had the same peace, which was just a beautiful thing because I just know it could have gone a different way and I've experienced it a different way. But the graduation of knowing like how much I put on myself for that to go well. And I didn't have that with the wedding walk. And I just had this peace that I worked my butt off. Like, yeah, whatever happens, happens. So for the wedding walk, we did it and it's a beautiful moment. If you watch it online or in the movie, it's this incredible moment, but that's the beauty though of video editing. You get the best parts. So when we started walking, one detail we overlooked was tightening up my belt before walking. And so I had a little bit looser when I'm sitting. When I'm standing, I needed to be a little bit tighter. Well, we start going, my pants start to fall down. And Emily yells out, "Oh no, his pants are coming down." And so, we stop the whole walk. She hikes up my pants. She tucks in my shirt. She tightens the belt and then off we went. And it wasn't a big deal. Like it really wasn't. Who cares? Like, and then obviously like they're not going to put everything in there, but I like to share that moment because isn't that life? It's life. Right? Like things happen. Like they're going to come up that are unexpected and you can laugh about it or you can cry about it. And that's life. We just laughed about it and we kept going. And again, it had an unbelievable day.
You said they shot the end of the movie. The finish was you walking down the aisle. That was Netflix?
So it was a production company and then Netflix bought the license for it for a few years. And then when it got on Netflix, it was incredible. This is a small production company. Then it hit the trending, like what's trending or what's popular. Yeah. It hit that multiple times. throughout its course of being on there.
Yeah. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So where are you at today? Tell us about your life today. Give us your wife, by the way, quick shout out to your wife.
Yeah.
I've never met her. I've seen her in person, but we weren't introduced or anything. I see the way she looks at you. I see the way she supports you. It's a beautiful thing. It is beautiful. The belt thing.
Yeah,
oh my God, his pants are falling. And then she just helped you and you guys move forward together.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. She's one of the most compassionate and strong-willed individuals I've ever met. And she's got this beautiful combo of the two. And, when we first met, I mean, she didn't get into the superficial physical abilities type of things and just saw me for who I was. And it just, again, kind of speaks to her character and what matters to her and what she values. And so I obviously value that a lot about her. And then, after the wedding, foster parents, and then we adopted 5 kids now. And
oh my God,
fostered 23 kids to date. Yeah. So we've been busy. That's for sure. The household's full. So the age spread is 15, 14, 11, 9, and 6. So yeah, there's a lot happening. I love them. It's, truly remarkable to be a dad. It definitely, it brings out the best in you. That's for sure. You think life and what it's like to be a parent, and then until you're thrown into the fire, as you know, like you just realize more about yourself and how much more in you too of potential and how you can just love on somebody else. And you just want to do it even better than what your parents did.
I have one daughter. I have one child, 5 years old, and I want to pull my hair out of my head. You have 5 kids, and the gratitude that you give off is just unbelievable. I mean, everything you've been through in your life, you could have quit. You could have folded and said, F this, played victim. You didn't do that. You pushed forward. Yeah. You implemented the tools that you needed to implement. You carried over that competitive edge and that work ethic with you.
Yeah.
After the accident. And it's a beautiful thing. I commend you so much. And your story helps. You said all these people reaching out. When I started this podcast, I'm sober 7 years, and I've shared my story a little bit. And when people reach out, it is the most fulfilling thing. It's not the car. It's not, the house. It's not these, void filling things that just end up leaving you empty at all. In the end, it is impacting and helping another person.
Yep.
Is what fulfills me today. And you are continuing to do that on a daily basis. So I thank you. And really quick, also shout out to your family. Your whole family, shout out to all of them. They've supported you, but also your sister, the one sister you said you have 2 sisters, the one that moved 3 hours away from home, got a place near your campus. So that you can continue life and continue your journey of recovery. That is absolutely, what's your sister's first name?
Alex.
Shout out to Alex.
Yep. Shout out Alex.
That is a beautiful, beautiful thing. That's an angel sent from God.
Oh, for sure. And I just been blessed like over and over with Alex and people in my life, Cam here, like my family. Like I just have had so many blessings of people that have really poured into me and helped me to be where I'm at today. Like it's definitely not been a one-man show. Like I can tell you that. Like I needed help getting up the stairs with you guys. Like we couldn't even do this podcast without some muscle and creativity. Like it's just how my life is. And I just know like you can only go so far on your own. And it takes being vulnerable, asking for help, leaning on others to get where you want to go. And there's a beauty in that. There's strength in that. There's community. And then there's so many blessings to do that. We're not meant to do life alone.
Yeah. Well, your gratitude is admirable. And I want to thank you for coming on today. You're an amazing person. And, I selfishly wanted you on my show because I know your story is going to help so many more. Dude, I love you. You're awesome. And thank you again for coming on.
Yeah. Thanks, Kevin. Love you too, man.